Welcome back to another video. So this is going to be part 2 of this VXR setup. So just the initial setup and rough tune and sight in was about 15-16 minutes long. So I didn't want to make it any longer. Now we're going to go through my tuning process that I use for every bow. This will work for every single bow. Now you have to do a couple things prior to that, and you have to pretty much eliminate all your tears. So I have a little knock high tear in this bow. So by the time I'm done with this, I should be able to go back through, shoot it through paper, and get a perfect bullet hole. The tears you want to avoid are going to be your left-rights. Now why you want to avoid left-rights is because your center shot isn't really perfect, or you need to shim or yoke tune your bow depending on what kind of setup you have. So the first thing we're going to do, I've already did a sight in, a rough sight in. I'm a little bit low, like on the bullseyes, like even at 20 on that 2-inch dot. All my arrows are in the bottom of it, so I'm a little bit low, but that's okay because they're flying to the exact same spot. So I can fine tune my my elevation on my pins, or like I use an Easy V, I can play with the speeds on my V of the inserts to get that set up the way that I need it to after I do all this. But what I'm going to do is I'm pretty much going to make sure that my rest and my sight come in together to where they're perfect, and I'm not getting any left-rights the farther I go back. The way I'm going to start tuning this bow is a walk back tune. So we should be able to see the second target, which is 30 yards from right here, has a blue line that runs straight down with a square on top. So I'm going to walk up to about 20 yards. I'm going to shoot one arrow into that square, and then I'm going to come back to 30, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to aim with my 20-yard mark or a 20-yard pin. Even though I'm at 30, arrows should drop. I'm going to go back to 40 and do the same thing. I'm just going to go back to 40 because I've really never had an issue with just going to 40. Most of my shots are going to be 40 yards or less, so I like to tune to my maximum range. Yes, I know I've shot and killed over 40 yards, but most of the time, if you can get them flying, your arrows flying perfect at 40, they're going to be perfect at 60 and 70. So we're going to go up, put an arrow in the top, and then we're going to come back to 30 and then go back to 40 and see if I have any drifts left and right, or if they're falling right down the pipe on that target. I got an arrow in the square, so I'm just going to use my same 20-yard pin, 20-yard mark in my case, and I'm going to shoot for that same top square and see where my arrow falls down that blue line. Now we're going to go back to 40. We're going to do it again. Shoot that one more time. I feel like I was not perfectly stable. So all we're going to go do, we're going to make sure that they're running straight down that target, not fading off to the left, not fading off to the right. You may want to do this a couple times just to see if you have the same result every single time. We can see that we're falling this way the farther back we go. So if I go out to 60, I'll be like way down here. All right, so what I need to do is I need to take my rest, bring it in just a little bit, not a lot either. I am going to shoot this one more time at 40 just to make sure, but I'm probably going to have to bring my rest in just a little bit. Little bit. Alright, so I'm right here. I got my Allen keys. I was fading off to the left, so I need to bring it to the right, and we can see I'm right there on my 20. So I'm on the inside line of the 20. So I'm going to split that little tick mark and the 20 and see if that'll correct it. Then you just start tapping it over. That's literally all I'm going to move it. Tighten it back up. Let's see where it shoots now. Alright, so I'm just going to literally shoot a couple arrows at 40, aiming at that same mark I was aiming at 20. See where I'm hitting. We'll walk back down there and check it out. So the last tack vein was me. I think I pulled just a little bit, so let's just see if I'm closer to that line or farther away from it. So we can see that I'm actually extremely close. I'm going to shoot again just see if I can get into that line. So I knew I pulled that one. That was my first shot. Right here felt really good, and I'm really close to that line. And we can see like that's originally where I started, so I'm just a little bit off. So let's try it again and just see if I'm consistently right here. I may have to move my rest in just a little bit more. I do want to make this clear. If this is your first time going through this entire process of walkback tuning or French tuning or broadhead tuning, torque tuning, group tuning, however your method is, shoot a bunch. Make sure that your bow is giving you the same exact results every single time to the best of your shooting abilities. All right, so I think I got it right. That was my last arrow. The arrow before that is buried right there. And then these were my first two. So I think I'm still getting used to this grip because it's a lot different than any other bow I've ever shot. But I've just now shot 2 arrows pretty much in the tape. And then one just missed it. This tape is 1 1/4 inch wide. So at 40 yards, I barely missed a 1 1/4 inch wide tape. So I think my walkback tune is perfect. So my arrows were hitting to the left, so I moved my rest to the right. If my arrows were going to the right, I would move it to the left. You want to move your arrows to the direction they need to go, which is on that piece of tape. So just move it accordingly, and you won't have any issues. Remember, small increments make a huge difference. So now it's time to broadhead tune the VXR. All right, so now we got to broadhead tune this bow. There's a couple things you're going to want to do before we start this process. One, paper tune it, make sure you're no left and rights. You get left and rights through paper, you either have the incorrect spine, or you need to shim or yoke tune your bow. Okay, we already covered that right there briefly in there. This isn't a video on how to do that. You need to make sure it's done before we start this process, even before you start walkback tuning, because too weak or too stiff of an arrow will drift your arrow left or right. No matter how much you move your rest, it'll never get right. So just make sure that the left and rights are out of your bow completely before we start this process. So if you did take the time to make sure you're spitting a really good bullet hole through paper, and you insert tuned, you've knock tuned. Wait, I haven't covered that yet. So you're probably wondering maybe what is insert tuning and knock tuning. So I have a video that'll be posted in a link below that will show you a step-by-step how to build a better arrow, and that is explained and shows you how to do that for your arrows whenever you build them. And if you don't build your own arrows, I highly recommend doing it because you can eliminate what you would consider a flyer, a trash arrow, arrow just won't, one that misbehaves. You can eliminate that stuff just by simply a few extra steps while you're building them. Will lead to a lot less headaches through this walkback tuning, bare shaft tuning, broadhead tuning, group tuning, torque tuning, all the different tuning methods that there are. It'll save you a lot of headache. So one thing that I like to do is I like to find the least expensive broadhead I'm willing to shoot. And that's the Muzzy original 3-blade. They spin pretty good. They're cheap. You can buy a 6-pack for right at 30 bucks. And I've killed a bunch of deer with this. That and the blue ferruled 4-blade. But they do take a little bit to get to fly correctly. So I like to make sure that I can get something that I'm willing to shoot, but is a little cheaper, on the cheaper end. Make sure it shoots straight. And then I'm going to get the broadhead that I'm going to hunt with and just verify it. Because in my mind, if I can get this inexpensive, cheaper made broadhead to fly like a field point, something that costs a little bit more money, it's made out of better material, a little tighter tolerances, should have no issue. So while we're talking about broadheads, the broadhead that I'm going to shoot for the time being is the Grim Reaper Micro Hades. So it's a hybrid head. I think I said that. It's a hybrid head. You've got mechanical and a 2-blade fixed blade. So you get about an 1.5 inch cut with the mechanicals and probably a 1-inch cut with the fixed blade. It's a low profile head is why I took it, because it should fly extremely well. The smaller mechanical blades should not be hard to open, and these Grim Reapers have a really tough tip. So I'm just looking for a little bit extra cutting surface, and because maybe that's all I needed to successfully harvest the last 2 boars that I shot with the Athens. So this is what we're going to shoot. They come with a practice head, so I highly recommend you practice with the practice head. But first, what we're going to do, we're going to take this old Muzzy, spin straight, and we're going to shoot it at 20 yards, get this thing flying perfect at 20, and then we're going to take the broadhead I'm going to hunt with, and we're going to go back to 30 and 40 to make sure that this one will hit where I'm aiming in the moment of truth. Okay, and something I always like to do after I shoot the broadhead, I like to follow it up with a field point, just to see if the point of impact is any different. My up and down looks really good, but I'm having a left and right. So, let's check this out. Alright, so this was broadhead, which is just about 1 inch from center. Same way right here, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to reshoot this a couple times to make sure I'm getting the same flight out of that broadhead and my field point. And then I'm going to make an adjustment to bring these two together. Again, fixed blade first. Alright, so definitely brought this up a little bit higher. I felt like that's a pretty good shot. I feel like I was holding really good on the fixed blade. So it's not very far off from the first shot, which was right there. So I'm getting a little bit low and right. The first thing we want to do is we want to fix the low part. So my broadhead's hitting low. So again, just like walk back tuning, we need to point the tip in the direction it needs to go. So I need to lift my rest up again, just a little bit, and get my broadheads hitting perfect up and down together. And then we'll fix left and right. A lot of times when you fix your up and downs, your left and right will straighten back up as well. Alright, so broadhead's hitting just a little low, so I'm going to take my rest, bump it up. If I was hitting high, I would bump my rest down just a little bit. Okay, so that's how you're going to fix your up and downs when it comes to broadhead flight. Now there's a couple different ways you can fix left and rights, but a lot of times once you fix your up and down, your elevation part of it, your left and rights can clean up as well. So always do one. Don't ever try to do both, because you don't know why you're getting the left or rights to begin with. Alright, so what we're going to do is we have an adjustment right there. I am dead on with that tick mark. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'm going to loosen it, and I have to pick it up just a little bit. I want to put that tick mark that's on the mount part right here on the riser, I want to put it on the bottom side of that little small hash mark. And that's all I'm going to move it in order to get this thing to broadhead tune. That's dead even. Alright, so we can see that right here on the long hash mark, it's on the bottom side of the short one. So what we're going to do now, we're going to reshoot it, the same spot and everything, to see if that fixes this point of impact with the fixed blade broadhead. So I don't know if that was actually recorded or not, but I made the adjustment, and I felt like the first shot was me, so I made another shot, and we're going to see the difference of point of impact just by moving it as much as I did. So again, I pulled that really, really bad, so I shot it again with a field point, so I'm in the circle, and now I'm just right of it, same spot pretty much, same amount of right, but I'm dead level with it. So just picking it up that much made that much of a difference. So now it's time to go back, and we got to fix the left-right issue that we're having. We got a broadhead right. So there's a couple things that this means. The biggest thing that jumps out at me is not center shot, it's that your arrow spine may be too weak. So there's a couple ways you can combat this. You can now play with an arrow saw and start cutting off 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch of your arrow at a time if you have enough arrow. This is, I'm going to turn my poundage down 1/2 of a turn until that broadhead is exactly where it is, and that's where it's going to tune, that's where it's going to stay. Until I can buy some 250 spine arrows. You can try moving your arrow rest to the left or to the right if it's bad, but I don't have a left tear through paper, so I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it's just too soft of a spine for 70 pounds, 31.5 inches of draw length. So it's just kind of the story of my life. I'm sure this bow's going to tune up somewhere around 67 pounds. That's just typically where my bows tune at. And also this bow was running a little bit hot, like closer to 72 pounds. I do have it marked on my limb bolt. That way I know that's one full revolution all the way around. Like shimming a cam, what you do for the top, you gotta do for the bottom. So I need a bigger Allen wrench. I'll be right back. All right, got me a bigger Allen wrench. So I'm gonna take a half a turn out at a time. One thing I'll probably do whenever Mathews gets reopened, because they are shut down right now due to this coronavirus, probably just gonna get that shop to order me a set of 65-pound modules. That way I can max them out and bring my bow back into spec draw lengthwise. Half a turn at a time. It's just like your rest adjustments. Small changes make the biggest difference. Almost just straight low, and I feel that was me holding a little bit low. Okay, so we're gonna go down there and see how much closer that is. It was pretty close to about probably 4 inches. It was probably close to 4 inches apart from each other, and it's already come in a bunch. So, and that was just half a turn. We got a fixed blade, we got a field point. I'm gonna reshoot this a couple times just to make sure before I make any more adjustments, because right now I may just have to bump my sight down a little bit and bring it all into the bullseye. So I'm in the black right there. So I'm gonna go get those arrows. We're gonna make another, probably just a quarter turn adjustment to see if that finishes bringing those arrows together. Bullseye. Still shaded just a little bit to the right, but now I'm about to see where this one wants to go. See if I can get it right in there. Ah, that was me. There we go. Both of those are in the black. And in reality, just to make sure I don't run into any more issues, I'm going to take it'll end up being another quarter turn, which will make a whole turn that I'm taking out of poundage on this bow. While I'm standing right here, take this Grim Reaper hybrid. See where it is. We'll shoot the bottom dot with the Grim Reaper hybrid. Alright, so here's your muzzy. Still on the right edge of that bullseye, but it came in a lot. I took another quarter turn out, which made it a one full revolution from bottom, and now I'm pretty much dead middle of that right there. I think I was holding a little bit low, so I'm just going to keep shooting and see if these field points will actually walk in now with the broadheads. Woo. They're touching now. All right, I think that ought to do it. They're smacking down here. I shot them all at the same dot, so let's check these out now. Broadhead, field point, broadhead, field point. I can touch my fingers together, so I'm super satisfied with this at 20. So now I'm gonna kick this target back to 40, and we're gonna see if we need to make any more adjustments the farther back we go. I'm still hanging out just a little bit low, but my left and rights are gone, so I may have to bump the rest up just a scotch more in order to get it right there. But also, remember, before I started, I told you if I was shooting right here, I was hitting right here anyway. So as long as they go together, I can always move my sight around to get them to hit at the same spot. Okay. Grab a couple field points, send in with it. That was me. Go check those out. Here come my first shots at 40 yards. Broadhead looked like it flew really good. It looks like it's a little bit low, but my other two arrows looked low as well. So again, that's fine as long as they group together. Again, we'll make a side adjustment, pick it back up, and everything should go to the middle. Oh yeah, Broadhead is just dead in line. at 40 yards, just low. So let me see where that other arrow, oh, the arrow blew through it. So that means it hit low as well. Because the reason I say that, target's pretty chewed up right here. So we're gonna reshoot, but that's my broadhead right here. That's a field point, which that was the second one I shot, and I even immediately said, oh, that was me. And then the other one blew through the target, so it hit somewhere right in here. Sometimes this takes a lot of shooting, a lot of back and forth. I don't recommend shooting a big group of arrows with broadheads. Well, it gets expensive. So just take your time, make sure you're doing everything in small increments, because you don't want to have to go backwards to figure out where you were to begin with. The camera had to cool off, so I just kept shooting at 40 and shot 2 more times, and I'm literally shooting that much lower than my field point. So again, gonna bust out the Allen key. I'll pick it up just a little bit more. Let me just snug it up. So, see if that made any difference. That's in the very bottom of the bullseye, which is where my field points have been hit. So we got Grim Reaper Hades in the bullseye, and we got these two pretty much in the middle. They are roughly 2.5 inches apart, which is, I mean, at 40 yards, a 4-inch group. I am gonna shoot it a couple more times, just to, again, we're just verifying that I'm able to hit the bullseye at 40 yards. Unfortunately, when you broadhead tune, there's a lot of verifying that goes into this. But you know what, it gives me a peace of mind knowing that my broadheads are flying perfect to 40, 50, 60, 70 yards. You can take this back as far as you want. Typically 40 is as far as I do go, but if you feel confident and you want to shoot 100 yards with it, more power to it. Alright, so this thing was just shooting a little bit low, about that much lower. Made an adjustment. Check it out. Alright, so those are within 2 inches of each other, so we're just going to verify one more time with a broadhead and a field point. If they're the same tightness, I'm just going to make a sight adjustment to get everything hitting in the middle. Alright, I feel like that's money, so we're going to check this out, see if we have to make any more adjustments. Then I'm going to re-sight in my bow. I'm going to make sure I pick my sight up just a little bit, and I think I got to move it to the left. Okay, there's 40 yards. Broadhead. Field point. Doesn't get much tighter than that right there. Alright, I'm just going to move my sight to the left a little bit. Call it good. I really am happy with that. Stacked on top of each other the way you want them to be. This will ensure you have the most accurate and forgiving setup possible when you head into the woods this fall, this spring, summer, whenever you decide to go hunting. Take a little bit of time. This has literally taken me an hour and a half max, and I'm filming this. If I wasn't filming this, this whole process was done in under 30 minutes.